Right, we are only 4 races into the 2025 MotoGP season, and already we are getting rumours about next year's transfers and which riders could move seats, which is surprising to me considering nearly everybody's got a contract running until the end of 2026. But the rumours are still coming thick and fast, and the big one in the paddock at the moment is the rumour of Pedro Acosta going to Honda. Reports are saying the Honda have offered Acosta 10 million per year for 3 years for him to switch to Honda in 2026. Now, of course, Pedro Acosta already has a contract with KTM for the 2026 season. However, with KTM's current financial situation and poor performances on the track, and Honda's upturn in form this season, let's just say that contract could mean very little when it comes to negotiations. Ever since KTM's financial troubles were revealed to the paddock, there's been a lot of rumours about Acosta's future and whether it is with KTM. There were some rumours about him going to VR46, however, with Franco Morbidelli being impressive this season, I really don't think there's a seat in Ducati for Acosta. I think Morbidelli's done enough to earn a seat, and I think Ducati's priority will be to give Morbidelli a contract. So Acosta's only real options are to either stick with KTM for an extra year and look elsewhere for when the regulations change, or to switch to Honda for next season and commit to them long term. So let's start by looking at the advantages he would have for staying at KTM. So that's it for that segment of the video. Let's move on to the advantages of moving to Honda. Of course, the big one is the fact that Honda have had a big upturn in form. This time last year they looked dead and buried, they were by far the worst on the grid. Whereas this year there's an argument they could be the second best bike on the grid. Honda have looked very strong so far this season in MotoGP compared to last season. They currently sit second in the Constructors' Championship. Johan Zarco got a podium in the sprint race in Argentina, qualified on the front row. They clearly made major steps compared to last season. Meanwhile, KTM currently sit in 4th in the championship, haven't looked anywhere near getting a podium, and while Acosta's managed to pull off some good qualifying results, he's not been able to translate that into good race results, and as a result he's been crashing a lot, as like last season he's been pushing too hard on the bike, trying to drag it to a spot higher where it should be. From what it seems like, Honda have a much better bike than KTM, and I know people are going to point to Maverick Vinales' podium in Qatar. However, I do truly believe that that was just Vinales being really good at Qatar, and I really think that that was just a flash in the pan for him and he'll be back to fighting for 14th in the next race. I do think that was a bit of a fluke from Vinales and not really a true representation of where KTM are. KTM seems to have no direction at all as to where to develop their bike. They just seem to be putting more and more aero onto it and hoping it works. And there's even questions about whether they're going to be developing their bike much at all really. With their current financial situation, you've got to imagine that developing a MotoGP bike, especially for next season, is not going to be a priority at KTM. I seriously worry for them next year. If they're even in the sport, that is, there's still no guarantee that KTM will be in the sport next year. And if they are, I really worry for their performance next season because I feel like they're not going to be developing a bike for next year at all. With their current financial situation, they can't be throwing millions and millions at developing a MotoGP bike when they're billions of euros in debt. I really don't think that KTM is the place to be at MotoGP for a long-term future, and Pedro Acosta and his manager have made that very clear. Acosta himself has stayed fairly quiet about all the rumours, however, Acosta's manager has said a lot in the media in recent months. When KTM's debt was revealed, he said he was very disappointed in KTM and how it seemed like they were in a good position when in reality they weren't. And in recent weeks he's even said that his job is to look for the best bike for his client in Acosta. And let's just say KTM is far from the best bike, and if Acosta wants to have a better bike, he'd be better off moving to Honda. We've got to remember that Honda are a much bigger, much richer company than KTM. Their MotoGP team will be much larger than KTM, so they'll always have lots of resources to put into developing a bike. KTM's director, Pit Beirer, has come out recently and said that they're not prioritising wildcards in MotoGP, and wildcards are crucial for a bike's development, so I really don't think that KTM are that committed to developing MotoGP bikes for the future, or even for now. And this is despite KTM having probably the best test team of anyone in MotoGP. Paul Espargaro and Dani Pedrosa are quality test riders and riders for wildcards, and they're just choosing to not take advantage of them, which tells me they're really not committed to developing their bike. For Acosta, staying at KTM would be career suicide almost. He'd be much better off moving to Honda. I know I said that KTM have a good test team, but Honda also have a really good test team. Aleix Espargaro and Nakagami are going to be 2 quality test riders. I don't know if Stefan Bradl's still there, but Luke Marini and Zarco are main riders and they are great for developing a bike. So like KTM, Honda also have a quality test team and they seem really willing to take full advantage of it, with Aleix Espargaro going to be a wildcard in the next race. And as well as this, for Acosta's sake, moving to Honda would have so much more stability in his career than KTM. Like I said, there is no guarantee that KTM will be on the grid next year. There's still no confirmation of that. And beyond that, I really wouldn't be surprised if KTM left the grid after 2026. If he moves to Honda, he'll have a guaranteed 3-year contract, and he'd also be on millions more than he currently is now on KTM. According to recent figures, now take these figures with a grain of salt, they're probably not entirely accurate, but the reports are saying that Acosta's current KTM contract is worth 1.5 million euros per season, with a 2-year contract leading into the end of 2026. So a contract worth 3 million euros basically. At Honda he's been offered a 30 million euro contract, reportedly. He'd be earning so much more on the Honda. He'd be guaranteed a seat for an extra 2 years on a bike which is going to be developed a lot more than the KTM probably, on a team which is definitely going to be on the MotoGP grid for the foreseeable future. For a team that's got a really solid test team that has so much more resources than KTM. For me, I think it'd be utter stupidity for Acosta to reject that move to Honda. I know that he's got a contract with KTM for 2026 and there may be an element of trying to stay loyal to them. However, I really don't believe he will do that. We've seen with his riding style and his approach to races that he's riding for himself really. He's not thinking about the team, he's not staying calm and trying to collect points for the team in their constructors battle. He's just riding for himself, trying to get the best result for himself. People like Brad Binder and Bastianini, they're taking it a bit calm but not crashing as much, getting the points for the team. Acosta meanwhile is going all kamikaze style, all guns blazing, just pushing the bike to its limit until he crashes. That is not exactly the performances and the approaches of a team player. He's thinking of himself and I really don't think he'll have much loyalty to KTM. I think the only way that Acosta would stay at KTM is if he wanted to get a move to Ducati for 2027. For him, he might think it's beneficial to stay another year at KTM and see if a move at Ducati opens up for 2027. Maybe Marquez will retire or leave, or Morbidelli. There might be space at Ducati that opens up. However, with the regulation changes, there's no guarantee that Ducati are going to be any good with the regulation changes. So, I really don't think that's that much of a beneficial move compared to just moving to Honda. I really think that Acosta is headed for Honda, and I think he'd be stupid to not accept that move if he is of course given a contract offer like the reports are saying. And for Honda this would be a brilliant move. They need a superstar to be with them for their MotoGP revival. Ducati have Marc Marquez at the moment and Bagnaia, Yamaha have Fabio Quartararo, and Honda don't really have that superstar which they need to take them to the very top. And Pedro Acosta fits that mould perfectly. He's a young talent, he's got many years ahead of him. And I really think that if he does go to Honda, he would be the one that restores them back to MotoGP glory. Acosta would also be an upgrade on every single one of Honda's current riders. I know João Zarco is good, but he's 34, he's not going to be at the standard he currently is for much longer. He's reaching retirement age, so I really think that to bring in Acosta would be an immediate upgrade on every one of Honda's riders, and he would be the superstar who can take them back to the top of MotoGP. At the end of the day, I think it'd be a move that works for both Honda and for Acosta. KTM not so much, however, I think they need to focus more on trying to exist as a company still and being able to pay their staff more than keeping Pedro Acosta. And to be honest, I think this move is almost certain to happen. For Acosta, it's an escape route out of the car crash that is KTM, and for Honda, it's an opportunity to bring in a young superstar who has the potential to be the man who brings them multiple world championships in the future. It's a no-brainer for Acosta and for Honda, so I think this move is going to happen, and I think it should happen, and it'll be a very interesting one going into 2026. But now, I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments. What do you think of Pedro Acosta moving to Honda, potentially? Do you think it's going to happen? Would it be a positive move? How would KTM deal with all this? Let me know. And while you're there, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content just like this. I hope you lot enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye.